Now, if you've tuned into any game that D'Angelo Russell has played in at any time over the last 6 years, you likely saw a very familiar sight over and over and over again. There he is, top of the key, patiently waiting for a screen. Screen is set, dribbles around the screen, defender comes up, he passes, pocket pass, lob, whichever the situation calls for. Defender lingers back, mid-range jumbo, right elbow, left elbow, free throw line extended, wherever you want it, give it to you. And on the rare occasion that he's feeling spry, a little athletical in the bones, might decide to get a defender a little in and out, get all the way to the rim, give you a little layup, maybe give you a floater. Whatever you feel like doing, he might be able to do it. And that's because he's been in this scenario thousands of times at this point in his career. NBA.com has logged him at 3,011 possessions as a pick and roll ball handler in his 359 career games. And remember, these calculations only account for situations in which he shot the ball. So all the passes he's thrown to other teammates, things like that, that's not accounted for in these situations. So the real number gotta be way higher than that.
It's over 9,000! What, 9,000?
And off the strength of that pick and roll prowess that he shows over the past 6 years, he got himself a nice little career. He made an all-star team in 2019, made a whole bunch of money that a lot of people don't think he deserves. I'm not one of those people, but a lot of people think he out here scamming. He out here scamming. And you know what? What if I told you he was scamming? What if I told you that this isn't exactly who he is as a basketball player? That he's been perpetuating a fraudulent scheme on the NBA for the past 6 years. What if I told you? D-Lo trick y'all, man.
How can it be? She wrote a number down, it's here in front of me. Don't understand. She must have told me a lie.
Now, in order to explain what I mean about Russell tricking the league all these years, we have to take it back to when he first started breaking out as a serious shooty hooper at Ohio State under Coach Thad Matta. During his freshman season, Russell found tremendous success as a combo guard in Matta's offense, where he was able to display his elite shooting and floor vision, averaging a light 19, 6, and 5 over the course of the season on 45% from the field and 41% from 3. Now, if we just look at the raw numbers aspect of his time at Ohio State, we can see that those numbers are not much different from the numbers he's putting up in the NBA now. However, the way in which he found success on the floor at Ohio State doesn't quite match up with the way he's been used in the NBA thus far. I mean, if you just look at some of this here footage, this man is involved in all types of actions all over the court. We can see a little pin down shenanigans happening here, got some zipper cut action happening there, a little flare screen situation going on. Even in what appear to be designed pick and roll situations when he's getting screens set for him, they aren't the call the big man up and wait for him to get there type of screens. They are screens that are usually set after there's been some initial action to get the defense moving in some way, usually off a pitch or a handoff where some off-ball shenanigans are going on elsewhere. And this helps Russell because it not only engages the defense so they can't load up on him, but it allows him to gain some momentum in these situations going towards the basket, which is especially helpful in masking his limited athleticism, help him get some positive momentum towards the rim.
See me, I ain't got no mouth. I'll leave that for y'all.
One of the main reasons Russell was able to shine in different capacities in Matta's offense was the presence of senior point guard Shannon Scott. Having been in the offense for the past 3 years, Scott's experience provided Russell with another capable teammate who can handle the ball competently and set up offensive sets, which freed him up to display the other aspects of his offensive game. Contrary to the thoughts of NBA fans everywhere, D'Angelo Russell is not just a player who needs to dribble in the 87 high pick and rolls to be successful. In fact, the area in which his game shines the most is when he's allowed to thrive in space, created by his own movement and by his teammates' movement of the defense, whether improvised or within a structured offense. He displays his hyper-awareness on the court all the time, especially in these situations. It allows him to do crazy things like throw a pass right by Kevin Love's nose even though Kevin Love was just looking at him. Or he could slingshot his teammate into a better screening angle so he can get an open three. These are just examples of things he's shown he can do consistently when given proper space and opportunity to do so. But the problem is, he's rarely had this opportunity, and we're going to take some time to find out why.
Alright, so we gonna run on 3.
What? I'm not finna run.
3.
Bro, you not running.
What are you doing, man? Come on!
I'm not finna run.
Alright, so in the interest of full disclosure, I kind of did like an in-depth analysis of like every year that he's played in the league thus far and the teams he's been on. And to be honest with y'all, that was like 35 minutes. There's a lot of writing, a lot of explanations going on, but nobody has time for that much video. It still might be creeping up 20, but I know y'all ain't rocking with me enough to sit here for like 45 minutes. So what we're going to do instead, well, not instead, but to supplement and kind of move this along faster, we're going to play a little game. It's a game I like to call, Is He Still in the League? I don't know if that's the name of the TNT game, but we about to do it too. We got however many rounds, 5 rounds, however many seasons he's been in the NBA except the last one. So we're going to go through every roster. I'm going to post it up on the screen. I'm going to give y'all 8 seconds to count everybody on this roster and see how many of those people are not in the league. You can put it in the comments, whatever you want to do. You want to play along, that's fine. But we're going to do it like this here. 8 seconds on the clock. We are starting with the 2015-16 Lakers. How many of these dudes is still in the league? 8 seconds and go. All right, next up, 2016-2017 Lakers. 8 seconds on the clock and go. (2017-18) Brooklyn Nets and go. All right, for the season that everybody is familiar with, the 2018-19 Nets. Will there be some surprises on this list? Let's find out. 8 seconds on the clock and go. And for our final year, the 2019-20 Golden State Warriors, 8 seconds on the clock. And all right, folks, that has been the first and probably the only rendition of Is That Dude Still in the League? I have been your host, Amph. We about to get into some real analysis now. And yeah, let's get into it. If we look at the play type distribution for Russell over his first 3 seasons, particularly with regards to pick and roll ball handling, spot up possessions, handoffs, and off-screen possessions, we can see that Russell's versatility on and off the ball wasn't explored to its fullest potential. Over the course of these 3 seasons, we see a steady increase in his pick and roll ball handler possessions, receiving more and more reps and responsibilities on significantly less than adequate rosters, which came with its own set of pros and cons. On the plus side, it allowed him to experience every situation a pick and roll throws at you as a primary focus of a defense, and helped him develop the tools necessary to thrive in these situations. He learned what passes he could and could not make, particularly beginning to cut down on some of the tight window bounce passes he tried early in his career that gave him some trouble. He also developed a feel for the offensive spots that he was most comfortable operating in, particularly in the mid-range area. On the downside, Being on these insufficient rosters led to Russell growing increasingly comfortable with taking tough contested shots more often than he probably should. Over the course of the first 3 seasons, he steadily improved in these situations, but each of the seasons included some obstacles that made it hard to find continuous success. In 2015, he dealt with Byron in the whirlwind that was the Kobe Farewell Tour. In 2016, after helping lead the Lakers to a 7-5 start, he suffered a knee injury which caused him to miss a month, which effectively derailed the season. In 2017, coming into the season with a plan to share ball handling duties with Jeremy Lin, Lin gets hurt in the first game of the season and relegates him to more on-ball responsibility once again. However, Russell thrives in the situation early in the season, showing an increased capability to finish around the basket and averaging 21, 5, and 6 over the first 12 games of the season before unfortunately suffering another knee injury that caused him to miss 2 months of the season. During this frustrating period of nonlinear progression, Russell's other play types outside of pick and roll situations didn't really increase that much. His spot-up possessions remained relatively consistent around 2 per game, and he showed consistent efficiency in these play types over the years. He showed a knack for relocating the open spots on the floor and making himself available for catch and shoot opportunities, and displayed a quick and accurate release in these situations. By the end of his 3rd year, he was in the 77th percentile in spot-up possessions, and in the years since, he has never dipped lower than the 81st percentile in this play type. In terms of off-screen and handoff situations, outside of 2016, a year in which Luke Walton surprisingly recognized Russell's ability to play off the ball in some capacity, he didn't have many possessions in these situations. In the 2016 Luke Walton-led offense, in which there were dedicated sets to put Russell in off-screen and handoff situations, he performed relatively well, placing in the 84th percentile on handoffs and in the 61st percentile off screens. In 2015 and 2017, he did not fare as well in these play types, largely due to inconsistencies in the creation of these opportunities on these teams. So upon examination of Russell's first 3 years in the league, we see that he has steadily been groomed to function as a high-volume pick-and-roll ball handler, due largely to roster construction and to a lesser extent, coaching philosophies. This leads us to what many people believe is his best season, 2018, where under Kenny Atkinson, he took his pick-and-roll prowess to new and exciting heights. But was this really his best season in the NBA? Let's take a look.
LeVert, Russell, the 3. Wow, what a shot! And this is a guy that just really come into his own this season. Big time shot right here. High arcer, knocking it down.
All right, so now we get to what most people consider to be Russell's best season, the 2018-19 season. Makes an all-star appearance, leads his team to the playoffs after an 8-18 start, carrying the team through injuries to Karis LeVert and Spencer Dinwiddie, who missed 3 months and 1 month respectively during the season. 2 major keys to Russell having success during this season is finally having a consistent lob threat in Jarrett Allen and a consistent off-ball threat in Joe Harris, which allowed him to show how effective he could be as a distributor in a somewhat functional offense. Allen, being a consistent threat at the rim, allowed him to use the vertical spacing that had been missing when Hibbert and Mozgov were primary targets. A consistent paint threat also allowed Russell to deliver pinpoint passes to the perimeter consistently, punishing defenders who had to decide whether to stop the roll man or stay at home. These late passes on extended Harris cuts and Atkinson's motion strong sets are a prime example of Russell's ability to take advantage of every bit of space on the court, extending the passing angle for as long as possible before delivering the pass. This is also the season in which Russell seemed to find his footing as an off-dribble shooter, displaying better balance and increased strength that allowed him to extend his range and speed up his release. Now, a lot of the narrative around this season is that Coach Kenny Atkinson was the driving force behind Russell's breakout season, and I'm going to have to push back on that just a little bit. Although they did work well together, Russell and Atkinson didn't exactly see eye to eye on a few things on the basketball court. Atkinson was somewhat inflexible in game situations, particularly his insistence on the timing of his rotations down to the very second. We saw some signs of this in the 2017 season during the Raptors game in which Russell hit 7 threes in the first quarter and was then taken out soon thereafter. We saw this across the 2018 season as well in a few occasions, which Russell later acknowledged frustrated him. Additionally, Atkinson favored guards who attempted more layups and threes, a style in which frowned upon Russell's preference to operate in the mid-range, which caused him to lean on the more athletic Spencer Dinwiddie during early parts of the season, particularly in late-game situations. Eventually, though, Russell and Atkinson found a happy medium, with Russell increasing his floater attempts and converting them at a good rate, as well as increasing his three-point output while still attempting mid-range shots that were available. Although they had these issues, they did work well together for the most part. Atkinson's offense had plenty of built-in motion that served Russell well in pick-and-roll situations that allowed him to get into the paint more often and make plays for others. Russell's usage as a pick-and-roll ball handler jumped to a staggering 11.4 possessions per game, where he ranked in the 67th percentile in the league. The presence of Dinwiddie and LeVert did provide for more opportunities to play off ball as well. However, Russell remained a rather stationary contributor, using nearly 3 spot-up possessions per game, converting 1.13 points per possession, which was good for 81st percentile in the league. However, the more creative aspects of off-ball play in terms of off-screen actions were reserved for the likes of Joe Harris, and Russell only received 0.7 possessions per game in off-screen situations. All in all, it was a great season that saw Russell's offense take a tremendous leap, where he posted an offensive box plus minus of 4 and ranked 8th in the entire NBA in offensive real plus minus at 4.62. Whatever your issues with those metrics in particular, those and others point to him having a highly effective season. But was it his best season? I contend that the very next season was even better. After receiving a max contract for his efforts in Brooklyn, Russell finds himself on the 2019 Warriors after being traded for Kevin Durant. The trade brings him optimism, as Russell is finally able to go to a winning organization and has a chance to learn from Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green. It takes all of about 3.5 games for Russell to be right back in a very familiar situation. Steph Curry breaks his hand, and Russell is left to carry a woefully inadequate supporting cast once again. We've seen this movie time and time again. Bring on the 65 pick and rolls a night. In the most surprising development with the least surprising outcome of all time, Russell is given the opportunity to function as both an on and off ball creator and produces the best offensive output in his career to date. Steve Kerr's dogged insistence on running his offense his way, regardless of the personnel, could lead to some weird possessions like these Amari Spellman mid-range pin downs that happen from time to time. But it also resulted in Russell consistently playing in a style that was optimized for his particular skill set. The reason Russell can play so well off ball is because all of his on-ball skills are transferable to off-ball situations. He uses his crafty start and stop deceleration to keep defenders off balance while moving off ball. He also uses his knowledge of screening angles to optimize the space created by off-ball screens. In terms of spot-up shooting, Russell is not simply a stationary shooter off the catch. His diverse shot-making ability allows for him to get many different looks off at many different angles through various types of contests, none of which are more difficult than the countless number of off-the-dribble attempts he has taken over the years. He has also shown himself to be both a willing screener off ball and an opportunistic cutter in the right situations. Additionally, playing in situations that allowed him to move against scrambling defenses opened up playmaking opportunities that had been missing for so long. The increased movement in the half court seemed to have led to an increased pace for Russell overall, which was evident in his increased willingness to push the envelope with his playmaking in transition. Russell used all these off-ball skills in conjunction with his improvement as an off-the-dribble creator to power himself to a truly impressive stint with the Warriors. Russell even took a leap as an isolation creator due to an even further refined off-the-dribble jump shot. Now, people can argue good stats on a bad team all they want, But this improvement was not simply a case of higher volume creating higher counting numbers. Russell powered himself to a 4.5 offensive box plus minus by attempting the most threes of his career at nearly 10 a game and converting them at a 37.4% clip. He increased his free throw rate by nearly 10 percentage points over the previous year, while decreasing his turnover rate and raising his true shooting percentage by nearly 3 points. During his time with Golden State, Russell averaged 23.6 points and 6.2 assists on 56% true shooting, while playing a style of basketball he hadn't consistently played since his freshman season at Ohio State. The Warriors season is the season in which he showed all of his cards, revealing that he tricked y'all his entire career. Despite the narrative around him, D'Angelo Russell is not a player who needs to be on the ball every single possession to be successful. Circumstances in his career thus far necessitated that he become that type of player for the betterment of his team. So what does this mean going forward? After being traded to Minnesota and largely having to revert back to his pre-Golden State style of play due to various injuries to Karl Anthony Towns, as well as uninspired offensive sets by the now fired Ryan Saunders, it appears that Russell has likely received another lifeline that will allow him to be his best self on the court once again.
Teammates.
Right. With D'Angelo Russell, what do you love most about his game?
Oh, he's super skilled. He's an unbelievably skilled player, probably one of the most skilled players that I've ever worked with, and I've been fortunate to work with a lot of them, including James Harden. But his ability to handle, pass, and shoot, play in small spaces. Worked with Kevin McHale for 5 years, and Kevin used to always say, like, you can always tell the best players that they can play in small spaces. You know?
Yeah.
And D'Angelo can play in really small spaces. He's a basketball player. Like, I don't know if he's a 1, I don't know if he's a 2. Our challenge is to play him at both spots and be able to maximize him in both different roles.
In his first 22 games under Chris Finch, Russell once again looked like the player we saw in Golden State, thriving in playmaking opportunities created in handoff situations, capitalizing on increased off-ball movement opportunities for playmaking and scoring, bolstered by his ever-increasing success in catch-and-shoot situations. Additionally, he finally gets to play consistent minutes with a do-it-all big man in Karl Anthony Towns and a backcourt partner in Anthony Edwards who couldn't be more of an ideal fit. Edwards is a relentless attacking guard that can make up for Russell's lack of consistent penetration and one who can draw enough defensive attention to free Russell up along the perimeter to weaponize his off-ball shooting and secondary playmaking. If both he and his teammates can stay healthy and Chris Finch is true to his stated philosophies, D'Angelo Russell and the Wolves might trick y'all once again. A masterclass in sleight of hand that leads them firmly into the playoffs next season.
Card, would that impress you?
Very much.
And your card is a...
10 of hearts.
What is it?
That's it.
Hey, if y'all didn't know, now you know. I'm out of here. I don't have nothing else for y'all. I just killed this. I'm out of here.